Hello, welcome to Post Colonial Space. I'm Masood Raja, and today I am recording in my in law's backyard. Behind me is Ohio River. This small town is called Sardis, and it is in Ohio River Valley. So I thought I should introduce you to the place first. And today I'll be talking about something that comes up every now and then, and it's about scholarly publishing and scholarly books. So every now and then on Facebook or Twitter, someone will ask me as soon as I mention a book, they will ask me if I have a digital copy of it. And most of these queries come from Pakistan. And this is not me generalizing about a whole country or about my own people. This is kind of pointing to a trend that has been normalized, and that is that we don't need to buy books. We can just share digital copies of them. And I'm all against the mainstream big six publishers who own most of the world knowledge. This is not an apology for them. But this is more about thinking about how academic publishing works and how best to support it. Now, most academic presses, university presses, are small presses. And other than the presses of the Ivy Leagues, most of these presses are self-generating, self-sustaining. They have to produce books, sell them in order to sustain themselves. Now, authors, those of us who publish academic books, we don't make a lot of money. Our commissions sometimes royalties are really low, if at all, if we get them. But the selling of the academic books is intimately connected to the sustenance of the academic presses, the university presses. That's what I'm talking about. Now, most university presses would first do a hardbound run of their book, and that is primarily always directed towards libraries, because they expect that in any given field, a library would like to keep their holdings up to date, and they'll purchase the book. And then the paperbacks are usually geared towards individual readers, people like you and me who purchase a book and then use it, or we use it in our classes. Now, this model works only if people actually purchase the books, right? And libraries purchase the books, and that's what keeps the academic presses going, right? Now, if we stymie that process by illegally sharing, PDFs of a book from one to the other, yeah, it might benefit us personally in one way or the other, but in the long run, it is going to destroy the very industry or the very presses who produce good scholarly works. So that is why most of the times when someone asks me for a digital copy, most of the times I don't have the digital copies, but I basically tell them that no, I don't have it, or I would not be willing to share it, especially if it's a book published by a small university press. Because my hope is that people will invest in themselves, build their libraries, and buy books. Because if we don't buy books, either in paper form or in digital format, the very institutions that produce those books, of course, will not be able to sustain themselves. So by sharing openly digital copies of these works produced by small university presses, what we actually end up doing is harming the very institutions that make it possible for us to publish books. And remember, a lot goes into publishing an academic book. First of all, of course, the writer has to write it and research it. The press then has to send it to reviewers whom they pay, not a lot, but a little. Then when the reviewed manuscript comes in, the author then revises it, then it goes through the copy editing process, it probably goes through a developmental editor, then people in layout lay it out, and then finally it is printed by a printer. All of those people need to be paid. Now, as universities are run in the United States, at least most university presses do not have a subsidy, so they have to be self-sustaining. That means they have to sell books to remain in business. So that's what I wanted to share today, because I get these queries, and sometimes it's without a thought. Can I have a digital copy of this book? And I have to then politely refuse. And my reasons are this. Now, if it is an open access book, like my forthcoming book is going to be, I'll be very happy to share that, because that model is different and the press is following a different model. But if it's an academic book by a small publisher, and if it is important for your studies, buy it, have it in your library so that you can use it in future as well. Now, do keep in mind, this is not an apology for educational publishers or textbook publishers who, charge huge amounts of money to sell you textbook. This is about academic books published by small university presses. Now, if you live in Pakistan or India, as students, the holdings of your library are important for you. They will show you how good a library is, how good a university is. So if you're getting a degree in humanities and you go to the library and you have a list of books and you find most of them there, then you know that your university has invested in creating a library that can support the PhDs and MPhils that they are offering. If you're applying to a university which has a one-room library, chances are they will not be able to support or sustain your research. And that's when you'll have to ask people to share digital copies with you. So I just wanted to talk about this. This is not an issue of privilege, me being in the North Atlantic regions and you being. This is about a larger principle of how to make not the publishing industry, but small academic publishers, how to make sure that they continue publishing, and also to keep the integrity of someone's copyrighted work, to respect its stipulations. Because anytime I do that, anytime you, me, or anyone else is copying a book and sharing it, we are also violating the author's copyrights and the publisher's copyrights. And maybe that's something that we need to internalize and think about. And I hope next time, when I mention a book, someone would rather say, where can I buy an affordable copy of this book, right? Instead of saying, can you send me a PDF, right? So these are some of my thoughts. The purpose is not to judge anyone. It's to share my ideas about what's at stake when we steal someone's work, copy it, and then share it illegally. What are the larger consequences of it for knowledge production itself? Another thing that's also problematic is when you ask someone for a digital copy, especially at an open forum like Facebook, you are also imperiling them legally, because most of the times they could be held legally liable. But I think the bigger solution is if you can't purchase a book, borrow it from someone, or ask your libraries to be more responsive to you. Become a movement. But by and large, my hope is that we will look at our individual actions not simply from the point of view of our needs, but from the point of view of the knowledge network that we need to sustain what we do. And university presses, small presses, are a huge part of it. And the best way to support any of these ventures is by actually purchasing books and not pirating them or copying them and sharing them. So these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to share today. I hope it makes sense. Let me know what you think. Now, please do keep in mind that I am aware of the corporatization of knowledge. I've actually published on it and also recorded on it. So do keep in mind these views are not naively construed or represented. So keep this in mind, and I hope you will practice more careful sharing of somebody else's work, but also develop a habit of supporting academic work of others, and especially small academic presses or even literary presses. That's all. Thank you so much. Stay safe, take care of each other, and I will now see you next time. Until then, as always, peace and love.